It's the Team Objection Podcast for March 7th, 2023, episode 566. It is nice to be home. I didn't mind the temporary setup with Dave or anything, don't get me wrong, but now we have everything going as normal, and look, there's also a special guest.
You pointed at me.
Yeah, just last week I was with Dave. Yes. So I could just point at him, and now I have to point backwards. I have to point this way, even though Cody is this way.
Cody's a regular now, and I am a special guest.
That's right.
You know what it is? I'm so big now. It's like featuring in a movie. Like, I've now ascended to such heights that now you put me at the end and you say featuring because it's like a big deal.
Yeah, but isn't the big deal person the one with the big name right at the very start?
That's the biggest, but that's Chris either way. Okay. So Chris is the beginning. Then it's featuring me. I'm second.
So you're saying that movies go high all the way up, dip down, down.
That actually is. Yeah, like Yellow Jackets, the show, is the most recent example. It goes featuring Christina Ricci because
I'm imagining this more like the guest starring because it's the last time you'll be on it. They're going to kill your character off today. That's more what I'm imagining. Like you're the last one to be introduced.
You know what? Sometimes featuring is technically the biggest name.
Sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like you usually give the star to the main character, but then featuring is like the actual. So maybe that's me, I guess.
And so your point is Dave's right there in the middle as the lower one.
Dave is like what if we could whatever's relegated to the least important person. I don't know if we have to like put him in the back or what. But
did it ever bug anybody when you're younger and they did something like that where it was like guest starring actor's name on a TV show and like, oh, well, clearly this is the last time they're going to be on this show. Like, it almost ruin it at the very beginning.
Yeah, or you don't know that they're going to show up and it's guest starring so-and-so. You're like, oh, I guess they're going to make a cameo.
Yeah, like Jaleel White's name shows up down there and you're like, Urkel's going to be in this episode? Yeah. What?
Yeah, I guess they wanted it to be a surprise, but that's
Urkel
ruined.
on Full House? That's crazy.
Yeah.
A crossover we never knew we needed.
Yeah.
And still didn't. This week, we have a different topic. Last week, we kind of talked in depth about Hogwarts Legacy, and we thought, between that and the AI talk, we've been having these long discussions about things that are of interest, and there's a timely one that we could really pull the trigger on at any point, but now in particular, it just seems relevant because, we're in the midst of the stretch run of the NBA season. NHL is coming down to the wire if you care about that. We're about to embark on March Madness, which a lot of people do care about. Like, it's a good time of year for sports. Football just ended, whatever, right? Sports betting in general has... to say spread is almost an underselling. It's like it's proliferated. It's become ubiquitous to the point where it's like for some people, it's part and parcel with the experience. Like you don't watch sports unless you're betting, and you've seen plenty of ads. Hell, you've seen ads on things that have nothing to do with sports about, hey, this has been sponsored by SeatGeek and you can get tickets. Well, that's great because that's tickets. So you're like, okay, fine. And then you see other ads on things that aren't even for sports, and it goes, put a bet on FanDuel, and you're like, oh, well, FanDuel's betting, so you're getting people who don't even care about sports to do that. We'll talk about all the pros and cons in a minute, but the idea is basically sports betting's everywhere. We have two sickos here and two relative newcomers, so let's talk about it and all the pros and cons and ups and downs.
But time out really fast. You were on such a roll, I don't want to interrupt you, but I got to do a timeout because I'll forget if I don't. I want to do a redactment of last week. Thinking back to it, I was like, I felt like I wasn't as clear in like being an ally as I wanted to be and how important it is to like support trans communities and trans people. So I want to establish that was never the point, is to be like, they don't need it and they're like making a big deal out of nothing. Definitely not the intent. Let's keep exploring ways to give them support. But I saw an article today that was like, now that Hogwarts Legacy has proved that gamers hate trans people, what's next? And that was the headline of the article. I was like, that's exactly the stuff that I was trying to call out, that I don't like. So that's
the whole point of the episode, was to say that that's not the case.
Exactly. So just to throw that out there. Anyway, sports betting. Yeah, you have me, where I think it's a cancer on the sport. I think it's the worst thing to happen to sports in a long time. And then you have probably everybody else either ranges from supporting to maybe more measured takes.
I've bet on sports once. In Vegas years ago. I think I put
It was my bachelor party, I think.
It was, and I think I put $10. It was. I don't know if the Suns were playing the Spurs or if it was just a Spurs. I don't think the Suns were playing that night.
It was the Heat and the Pacers because it was the playoffs.
It was the Spurs in some form or another because I bet against them, and then I was double sad when they lost because I lost money and I was pissed off. So it was the Spurs and somebody. Don't remember who. Point is, that's the only time I've ever placed a sports bet. I've never done the online trend. However, the two people in the middle panels, for the viewers and the listeners, who cares? You don't know who's sitting where. They have sports bet a little more than that. So we have neophytes. We have people who are super serious about it. Let's talk about it. Is it good? Is it bad?
Okay, I need to figure something out first. I need Sean to explain why it's a cancer. That's
so
a really egregious statement.
So it's funny, because it's like fantasy sports where it is proliferating the sport to the point where it's now the most important thing. So the impetus really for this, Chris mentioned, we can bring this up at any time and it works. The reason we thought it'd be a good topic for today is because everywhere you look, it is becoming a thing. If you're on a fan website, if you're watching ESPN, they now have segments. Listen to the radio. It's dedicated not to talking about sports, but betting on the sports. I'm now listening to experts talk about what I should bet on as a segment, which is crazy. Even if I bet, I would be like, this is a waste of my time. Why are they dedicating time to this? If I'm not betting, what value is this entire sports show giving to me now? So kind of like, Dave, I told you fantasy is killing sports. If you remember this topic from like years ago. And this is just fantasy, but taken to the next step where now it's harmful and terrible and also taking over the sport. Nobody watches sports for sports anymore. That's my take. You
forgot two words in your argument. Fantasy and betting is ruining sports for you. It's actually expanding sports in an amazing way and making it more popular, more money, and a bigger reach than ever before. So you may not like it, and that's a perfectly valid opinion. It is absolutely helping sports as far as proliferation and money.
I think it depends how you define that take because, you know what? We'll get to that. We have a nice little debate going. Cody, you're here. What do you think about sports betting? You love it. Why am I asking?
You said so many. You yelled so.
I did the M&M thing. I did the 8 Mile thing when I've already said where you stand. So now you have nothing.
And Clarence's parents have a real good marriage.
I think the one helpful thing is, and to Dave's point that he just made, is it's such an easy entryway into sports that you haven't watched before. And that opens the door for people to start watching it. Because right now, F1 is getting really, really popular. You know, it's a really easy entryway to start watching F1. Bet on it.
That's stupid, by the way. If you don't know what you're doing.
No, I know. Well, it's really easy. Just bet on Max Verstappen and over again, and then you win lots of money because he wins like every other race.
Yeah.
But that's besides the point.
I didn't know that. Now I know. Hold on.
Yeah,
I'm dead serious.
He's dominating.
I'm dead serious. Bet on him every single race, even if it's minus 200. You're gonna win.
Which is amazing because you'd think, it's I guess akin to like Tiger back in the day, where it's like it's him versus the field. You got to take the field, right? No. Someone else is good. No, every week
he's gonna fucking win.
Yeah.
And if it's not him, there's like two other guys, and one of them is his teammate because their cars are better than everybody else.
And they hate each other, but that's a different story.
That's exactly all besides the point. It's a really easy entryway into to starting stuff like. The football would not be as popular in America's #1 sport if fantasy football didn't start picking up in the 80s. Then it really got, which was baseball, and then really picked up into the early 2000s, and that's when we know LaDainian Tomlinson and Sean Alexander. And all these people know all these random running back names because they were big deals in football. I think it is really specific to sports because obviously fantasy hasn't caught on the same way for hockey and basketball, and it never will just because it's not weekly the way it works for football. Mm-hmm. And so in your sense, are you mad and you think that it's ruining sports because people aren't watching to cheer for teams specifically?
So we run into a thing where it's like when people argue Marvel movies are failing. Well, okay, maybe you don't like the content anymore, but you can't lie with the box out. They're making money.
Yeah.
Sports, it's not ruining sports. Sports are just getting more and more eyes are coming in. So I think what I mean to say is it's ruining, like you said, for me, the essence of sports. Now it's much less about watching and rooting for your team. A lot of people, they've stopped having a team. I'm like, I don't have a rooting interest. I just have a betting interest.
So you feel that people are leaving the team that they've watched and cheered for a long time to bet against them?
In a lot of cases, not always.
I think most of that is the casual fan betting and cheering for the one random athlete or whoever. Like the LeBron fans who they cheer for the team that he goes to whenever he moves. It's kind of the similar thing to that. Like those people are going to hop to whoever is making them money. I don't know how many people are actually abandoned. Like, I mean, Dave, how often do you bet against the Suns?
I haven't.
Exactly.
Ever.
I think the very hardcore dedicated fan base is probably not really changing. The problem is you're getting that really annoying, loud minority of people. And the one side I will go against it is now that sports betting blew up and it's across, I don't know, half the states or whatever it is, like college athletes, for example, who weren't paid, are getting like torn apart on Twitter and on social media when they miss a shot.
Yeah.
That's the
because
shitty
now
part
you're
of it.
costing me money.
Yeah, the guys who were never going to
Yeah.
watch the UCSB versus UC Irvine Big West championship game or whatever, they were never going to watch that. Well, now they're going to watch it because they bet on it, and then they lose, and then they treat those kids like shit. That's where it really does suck,
Well,
and those are the people I think you're angry at.
So it is. So there's that. And, you know, my thing, really an elegant example, it's the best I can think of right now, is like me wanting to spread gaming. I love gaming as a hobby. I want as many people to experience it as they can. And being like, the only gateway somebody has is Fortnite.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, that's great. And it has brought on a lot of gamers who maybe wouldn't have tried gaming before. But it's like, it's this one window. It doesn't really encapsulate gaming at large. It's this very unique,
It's shallow.
monetized,
Is your
shallow
kind of
experience.
thought.
And you're like, well, that's gaming. So that's what it is with sports. The issue, really, I mean, I have the thing, you should root for a team and all of that, and that matters to me, is Fortnite, that's pretty innocuous thing. Sports betting, for many, is not so innocuous. And I think that's the problem, is when you have ESPN pushing this dangerous thing, like it's wonderful. That's the problem for me. The biggest issue.
I think the one thing I have with that is it is dangerous. You can lose your money and all that. Sports have been pushing bad shit for a long time. How many beer and alcohol commercials are spanned all across sports over and over again? They've been pushing borderline alcoholism for like 30 years now, to where gambling's not so good and it's supposed to be done in moderation and all that shit, but that's just the thing they tell you.
I mean, sure. But like, you don't have the Chuck interrupting halftime to be like, by the way,
right.
You guys, we should all drink beer.
Natty Ice, guys, let's go.
Please drink beer. Please go drink a Budweiser.
I guess technically you can get those things from just your phone on your couch if you wanted to get like a DoorDash to bring you a 6-pack or something. But in general, you can't be like, well, I'm going to fuel my nicotine addiction by getting a pack of Marlboro Lights from the comfort of my couch. But you can place a bet.
DoorDash delivers everything now.
You can bet on fucking cricket at 2:30 in the morning. Because you have the ability to do that from the comfort of your own home now.
One of my friends has just randomly dropped like $3 on table tennis because he saw it on FanDuel and was like, this will be interesting.
And now it's so normalized, though, because of this environment.
And I'm like, don't do that. That's stupid. But
Yeah. But two things. One, Cody, pull the microphone close to your mouth. I can't hear you very well.
Okay.
Two, that's the vast majority of people that engage in sports betting are not that. They're not the ones who are betting on the random Big West championship game or cricket at 3 a.m. The vast majority are very casual about it. I mean, my level of sports betting, I've deposited a total of $100 maybe in the entire life in which I have had. And what has happened is over time, I've either withdrawn the money to use it for things or I've lost it. I have like $10 left in a game set. I have no real desire to put anything more on. I have like $10 on there. I'll find the bet I want to go. If I win, I'm able to keep going. If I lose, then I'm done for a while. So, but the majority of us, I think, are like that, where it's like, this is something that can enhance certain things to make it a little bit more fun. But in the end, it's something that isn't going to change how I watch sports, at least. I watch sports for what I want to enjoy, watching my team. And this is something on the side. And if I don't want to do it anymore, I won't.
Here's my question, and it's going to sound really combative, and it's not. Just a little combative. That story, what are the actual stats for that? Because it sounds very anecdotal, and that's great, and I trust you, and I know you're very level-headed about it. But to make a statement of the majority of people have no issue, is that true? Or
I think it's the same corollary that comes into freemium gaming, and that to me is actually more predatory.
Well, that was the thought that I had, is like, it's not a little thing, and maybe percentage wise, it's a small amount of people. Ends up being still a huge amount of people.
It ends up being, percentage wise, it ends up being a very small part of people engage in the vast majority of the big issues that come with it, and the vast majority do not. I mean, in freemium gaming, they said like the top 10% or something like that contributes like 95% of all deposits, something like something along those lines.
Yeah,
which starts to sound like Bernie Sanders, but keep going.
Yeah. Yes, that. But along those lines, it's the majority of people who have a sports betting account or engage in it with really even frequency aren't ones who are mortgaging their house to bet on cricket at 3 a.m. That is something that does have problems, and it's a token gesture. They do provide links for gambling help, which is, again, a token gesture. It is there, and if you realize that, hey, you've got an issue, you can take steps to try to go after it. I know it's the same thing as putting the, hey, on smoking will kill you on the side of the carton. It doesn't stop people from doing it, but it is there.
I guess my question is, you mentioned the growth of the sport, and I think it's you can't really deny the fact that there are more people watching, at least casually, because of sports betting, because at least it's a way to get an interest in a random game or sport they wouldn't otherwise. I think that part is not just anecdotal. I think that's pretty easy to prove. However, I think Sean's approach is kind of like mine, where it's like, we're purists. We obviously ride for our local teams, the teams we grew up with, and like, not everybody has to experience sports in that same way, but is this bringing in enough new fans that are then converts for that team, that sport, to offset the number of fans it's bringing in who are becoming degenerates?
It depends on how much money you win on them.
Yeah,
I'm dead serious. Like,
yeah,
I'm not kidding. So going back a bunch of years now, one of my friends put down, I don't know, $10 on an 80-1 bet that France was going to win the World Cup by the exact final score. It fucking hit. He made $800 on a $10 bet. You know who we always cheer for internationally now, if it's not the U.S.? France. Because they made him a bunch of money, and our group of friends now is pretty supportive of like wanting France to do pretty well.
This last World Cup must have killed you.
Yeah, it did suck. I did not want Argentina to win. Similarly, for me, I bet on the Capitals to win. Random bet when I was in Vegas one time, the Capitals to win the Stanley Cup. I hit it, and I won. I like Alexander Ovechkin. Well, did before, the whole Russia's really bad thing and whatnot. But
he's close with Putin, but it's fine.
Exactly. So I cheered for the Capitals, an Eastern Conference team, when I wasn't cheering for my hometown team or LA Kings that I grew up watching. It brought me into wanting to cheer for another team.
But the majority of people I see who talk about this engage in it in that very surface level, which is fine, but like, it's sort of like akin to the poker stuff we used to talk about, where it's like, nobody cares about your bad beat stories. In this case, you had a 11-item parlay, and the 10th one fell apart on you. It was so close to coming together. It's like, yeah, that's how parlays work. Like, you have to hit them all or you lose. So yeah, it sucks that happened, but guess what? They're banking on it. So like, I don't care about you yelling at Christian Yelich because he didn't hit a grounder over the third base bag like you had planned for your 6,000 to 1 odds. Like, fuck off. Nobody cares.
I do think it's temporary too, though, because like, Sean, your issue with fantasy, like, how many fantasy commercials do you still see?
Like, not as they've been replaced with sports betting now.
Exactly.
Yeah, as I said, that's the problem.
The bubble on this is gonna burst.
Well, it has to, right? Because they've injected so much money into advertising and these ludicrous opening free bets where, if the Phoenix Suns make a 3-pointer tonight, as if a team hasn't made one 3-pointer in a game in the last 50 years since the line existed, basically.
Well, everyone will have signed up for each account and gotten their free bonus and then bailed on it, or they realized how much money they're losing. And I mean, I think in Arizona, we have like 8 different apps. I think it's somewhere right around there that you can sign up for. Those are all not going to survive. I mean, businesses go out of, fads happen, they go away. It'll stick around, but I think what you're just getting dragged down by is having to watch Jamie Foxx and these fucking MGM commercials over and over again. I think it's Kevin Hart on DraftKings over and over again. I don't even know Gronkowski's whole annoying bullshit during the Super Bowl for FanDuel. All of that is going to go away. You're just stuck in the middle of it right now.
And all this, but this point in this, another inelegant example is when you're on like a website, like engagement, like website hits does not equal website engagement. Yeah. So you have all these new fans, but like they're not engaging, or at least I don't think. I'm not seeing it. I would love to have some stats to either back up or refute this. They're not engaging with the sport the same way. So they're not fostering that love. Are they just going to peter out? Is it going to be damaging in the long term?
But why does it matter, I guess, to you especially? Like, when it comes down to it, you mentioned earlier how it was taking away fan love of the hometown team. I don't think that people are coming away, like someone like me, for example. I'm not taking away from my love of my hometown team to go bet on something and be a fan of another team. I think all the people that are coming in who would not have been interested before are those type that you're describing. But we're not... Like, I guess, so again, why does it matter to you how the casual fan reacts to it when you've got your thing you want and what you love. Why does it matter to you?
Because to me, the health of the league matters a lot because I care about it and I want. Wait, what?
They're super healthy right now.
I want it to continue to be healthy. And again, in the long term, if people are coming for the wrong reasons, focusing on the wrong thing, for example, I don't listen to the sports radio anymore because I just got sick of okay, here's another section where it's all sports betting. Like on a thing I barely cared about to begin with. Let's say they were talking about football again for the millionth time. Now it's betting on football. Well, I don't give a shit. So now I'm off the radio. One example, and it's anecdotal, but
I'm in a very similar boat where I've stopped watching any SportsCenter, ESPN, anything because it's not interesting at all. But I don't find that to be a problem. That's a them problem, not a sports problem, not a me problem. That's an ESPN problem. Yeah, and if you don't like their content, don't listen.
What did it replace that was on the radar that you? I mean, was it for the third different hour talking about is Devin Booker the top 5 guard in the NBA type of talk? Did it replace that for you?
I mean, or did you? To an extent, analysis is what I enjoy listening to. That matters. I think that's fun.
I think a lot of that had already moved off of TV and radio anyway, because we're all onto the let's yell at each other talk shows, which.
Well, honestly, we were talking about that today too.
Yeah. And honestly, I'm fine. Like, I don't watch most of the gambling stuff. I don't need the person to tell me that this is probably a good bet or this and that. I do enough of the research on my own to try and figure things out and double check stuff because I don't bet randomly and risk losing a bunch of money. So I do think that's it's just a Band-Aid over ESPN's issues of, well, do we put the 8th repeat of First Take on at 2:30 in the afternoon, or do we put a half an hour of let's break down today's gambling and stuff like that? Because the day it takes away from like the NBA, I don't remember what the show is called on ESPN.
The Jump.
Yeah, The Jump. With the day that takes that away, you're going to be really valid in your argument. But if it's really just filling the midday content that was dying anyway and is readily available on, like, you can go on ESPN and watch the highlights. You don't have to sit around to watch SportsCenter anymore. So,
go on your phone and watch them.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, in a way, that question is like really complex and interesting. And in another way, it's like really stupid. You're not stupid, Dave, but like to say like, well, the content is changing toward I don't like it. Why does that affect me? Well, it affects me because I don't like it anymore, and that's the issue with the Orville. We're gonna do a season. We're gonna take it out of space. We're actually gonna change all the characters. It's gonna be a medieval setting, and we're gonna roll in that season. You wouldn't like that, Dave, but what does it matter to you? Well, it's a show that I enjoy. Now I don't enjoy it anymore. That's what it matters, and that's kind of at the core of it. We can get really complicated about it, but it's changing something that I enjoy to something I enjoy much less.
You're going through what I went through like 5 years ago when, because like I used to watch Baseball Tonight all the time, like on ESPN. I loved it on ESPN all the time. We got rid of all those shows because we didn't need highlights. They were easily accessible. And we put Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith, who I don't give a fuck about, yelling at each other on TV anymore. But that was where the younger generation of stupid idiots wanted to go watch on TV, and that stuck. Now, there's a big group of idiots who think that these people on TV are going to tell them anything that's really that insightful. They couldn't go read on any random website anyway for 5 minutes. They're going to spend a half an hour watching the breakdown of the Pacific Division of the NBA and who's going to most likely win. Who gives a shit? Like, it's not really that useful to try and break down on TV, but they just try and stretch this crap out. The ESPN is going to keep jumping to all these random topics to try and desperately bring people in, and right now that's the fad that everyone's behind.
I guess my biggest issue is that it feels gross to me, and not just because of the small but still somewhat significant number of degenerates that this is either creating or enabling, but because of, I don't even care so much about the ads, which I think are way too frequent, but like I'm not as bothered by those. I don't even watch a lot of ads. And I don't really share Sean's dislike of what it's done to the midday block because I think that was kind of all vapid anyways. I care about the stuff that's in-game. I care about the fact that we have analysts who, again, whose input was never super sharp to begin with, who are now telling me who's going to be ahead at halftime, which means fucking nothing. Like you've said, it doesn't actually lend any insight. But to me, it's like, I don't know if it's because I'm a journalist and that's my background now these days, but like it feels like we're undermining credibility for a cheap buck. And again, it's a buck that's predatory for the most vulnerable part of its population that's going to be watching these games live. To me, yeah, they're making a ton of revenue off of this because, again, FanDuel and DraftKings and everybody else is just pouring money into the leagues themselves, the networks, everything. But at what cost? Because sure, it's all great temporarily, but if this creates lasting implications for people that exist beyond this short-term impact, to me, I walk away from that going like, that's fucking terrible.
I've been waiting for the alternate broadcast of this because they do it with baseball. They do it with the home run derby specifically. There's a stat cast where they break down the angles, launch angles, and the probability of it all going out and shit like that. And then there's the regular one where Chris Berman's just yelling back, back, back over and over again. I'm waiting for here's the ESPN2 or ESPN3 version of the broadcast where it's breaking down, here's how you should live bet this, and this team has this much likely of a probability to be up at the end of the quarter versus the pulled all of the live betting stuff out and go back to the regular traditional broadcast because there's enough channels, enough avenues to put together two separate broadcasts using the same cameras. I'm expecting that to happen eventually.
Yeah, if the demand is there, you figure it will go. And that could be the end game of that to an extent where it'll happen that way and then we'll kind of get the best of both worlds, really. I guess the alternative to all this is what we had before, which was illegal, couldn't do it. You had to do it back alleyway. I don't know what the alternative was going to be because this is going to happen in one way or another. Kind of the demand was there.
Yeah, just that it's taken over everything is a bummer. And then you listen to it, and I heard one before I stopped where they were like, yeah, so we're gonna do the segment today. Hopefully we do better. Last week we were 0 for 5, but this you're like, so. Not only is there no value in the moment for me, you were even going back and saying like, yeah, we're wrong. We don't fucking know anything.
No,
it's like great.
That's why the bubble exists. Yeah. Like if you think about it, this is what Cody said, the bubble will burst because people are going to realize that when these people say, I've got the lock of the week, I've got X, Y, Z, this is going to be great. Oh yeah, we suck at this. We can't do any better than anybody else. Yes. People are going to realize that eventually.
The one comparable I have, because this really bothered me 4 or 5 years ago, was daily fantasy got really big. From DraftKings and FanDuel specifically.
Which I don't like.
And it was, here's the picks for this week. It's like, you don't know shit, man. You're just assuming that the really shitty pass defense is going to give a bunch of yards to the really good wide receiver. I could have figured that out. I'm not dumb.
Like, to use the example I was just talking about, we just watched the Dallas Phoenix game on Sunday, which was great. It was really fucking funny watching Luka. Yeah. Anyways, I'm sorry. We're not talking about the Suns tonight. But, in the second quarter, I talked to Sean about this on the way up here today, but like, there's Jalen Rose. They're throw to him with like 10 minutes left in the second quarter. Suns are up 6. And it's a clearly pre-recorded bit about him talking about who's going to be up at halftime. And it has nothing of substance. You can tell it was recorded before the game started because it's not talking about anything contextually. It's like, I think Dallas is going to spread the floor and they're going to be leading at halftime. And you're like, well, first of all, I don't go to Jalen Rose for good analysis anyways, but now I'm like, well, this is stupid. If anybody with half a brain is going to be able to tell this is not a use of time, I guess, but it's like, to argue against myself, we know, like, let's just take the NBA as an example. ESPN's halftime show blows. It has nothing of substance whether or not there's sports betting involved. And while we love inside the NBA and their personalities, they don't offer analysis worth shit either, especially at halftime. So I guess what do we fill it with? It's become clear that nobody's watching during halftime, so they've abandoned trying to make it better. So I guess get paid instead of nothing, but I still don't like it.
To your point, like even inside the NBA is like, you watch that for the entertainment, maybe not for the insight.
Yeah.
What's the worst part about that? When they have Chuck and Kenny both just taking a different side of the same bet.
Every time. They're never on the same side, mysteriously enough. It's weird.
And so it's
but
stupid.
The good part about nowadays is that you have so many avenues to get your information from. If you want good analysis, find a podcast. There are plenty of podcasts and YouTube channels that will provide you very good analysis, and that's their shtick, is to give you breakdown of plays, not scream at each other about whose daddy is whose, Luka or Booker. It's all that stupid stuff doesn't get discussed, and you can go find that now. If you're still going to the major outlets like ESPN and hoping for analysis, I've got bad news for you. It ain't there. Well, you've got to go find it on your own.
I want like Zach Lowe to get big, but then I'm like, but maybe that would take him losing everything I like about him. Maybe I should
want that.
You don't.
And he's a great example because like the equivalent for me, because Zach Lowe was started with Grantland, or not started, but that's where he got really more popular for everybody. Same for me. That's what Bill Barnwell does, the same thing for football, and he started with Grantland, and that's who was podcast, and along with his former co-host on the Grantlands or whatever that I used to listen to a lot. So I listened to Robert Mays on The Athletic and Bill Barnwell on his ESPN podcast. If I want deep football analytical stuff, I don't watch, and I occasionally watch NFL's show with Mina Kimes and everyone because they've gotten better and gotten a little bit more detail with stuff. I don't watch a lot of that because you're right. It's all superficial. It's all filler. We don't need 24-hour sports networks anymore. We're so far past that because the internet exists and podcasts exist.
Yeah.
But ESPN's never not going to go to different programming randomly. They're just going to keep replaying their same crap on their 24-hour cycle over and over again. The only reason the channels exist are to play live sports and the pregame and the postgame show, and that's really all we need anymore. But that's why ESPN and cable bundles and all that are dying, because all of it is just filler, and you realize I'm paying $145 a month for TV and cable and all that, and I can get all of this information and better on the internet anyway.
Yeah.
And right now you're stuck, rightfully so, especially on the broadcast. You're stuck with, well, here's the hot thing that's going to give us money to starve off ESPN breaking off and not being on regular TV anymore. Because I think in 10 years you're not going to have all these commercials. DraftKings and FanDuel aren't going to sponsor every 5-minute little hit halftime segment. And I don't know what the channel is going to look like. They're just trying to hold on dearly to all the money they have while they can. And sports betting being legal in all these states just was really convenient. Because you think it's annoying? Now imagine a state where you can't actually bet on this shit.
Yeah.
And imagine what the life is like for those people who are stuck in California, hasn't legalized it, and doesn't seem like they're going to, and they have to watch all this crap. It annoys you. I can't imagine what it's like when you can't even legally do it.
And I guess there's such a nostalgia that comes from, I remember growing up watching NFL primetime, Chris Berman, Tom Jackson. They were on the show in the 90s. Fantastic. Watching SportsCenter with Stuart Scott and Rich Eisen, or Keith, what's his face? Oberman, yeah. Like
Dan
those
Patrick.
were Dan Patrick, yeah. Those were amazing times watching that, because that was the only avenue you had in which to watch the highlights for the day. Like if I missed SportsCenter, I'm like, well, shit, I'm not going to find out what happened. I'm not going to see this play ever again. And so it was a natural thing that was going to happen when we could just pull up whatever we want, whenever we want. And so now, again, I just find the podcast, I find the highlight, I just look on this and I say, all right, this is what I want to do. And so there's no point to me watching ESPN anymore. It's gone.
I mean, that's where I used to open a newspaper and read through all the agate to see baseball scores all the time. Because if I missed baseball tonight, I didn't know all the teams on the East Coast that I never watched or paid attention to, what happened in those games, because I didn't have a way of watching them. Now I can watch whoever I want because I have the MLB package, or you have the NBA package. Now you can watch every out-of-market game anyway.
Mm-hmm. And to your point of earlier, Sean, about saying, like, what if the Orville changed? It would suck, but it'd be like, that's what they decided to do, and I don't like it.
Come on, man. You can't be like, it'd be fine.
The catch is,
my favorite show. It'd be fine. It is what it is.
He doesn't have to watch anymore. He can decide, I don't want to watch it. You want to watch the Suns, and you don't have the version of the Suns you actually want to watch anymore.
If my favorite show completely changed, or a show that I like a lot decided to suck, like Game of Thrones, that is disappointing. I'm not going to be like, well, it is what it is. Their show to make.
No, but it is. It's disappointing, sure. And it's like, man, that sucks. But I have the memories of what it was and what I enjoyed, and it's going to end at some point.
Is this mostly a national issue? Because when you watch Suns games on Bally, you don't get all this crap as much, right? Bally doesn't have segments that are.
They don't have tie-ins with gambling,
so it's mostly a national problem.
Occasionally in the pregame show, they'll have a little bit of a nod to certain odds and whatnot, but there's definitely not the direct tie-ins and the sponsorships.
Because I haven't seen baseball as the season hasn't started yet, so I don't know what Dodger broadcasts are going to look like. But when I watch the Kings and they're on Bally, Southern California, I don't see any gambling crap. I just get my hockey game and that's it. I don't have to worry about it.
Even on SB Nation, which I like, and I like the Suns one, and then I like going on other people's ones, and especially when they're sad and in misery. I love it. I thrive on that.
Right out the ass.
No, I don't comment. I just read the comments, and it brings me pleasure.
You drink their tears.
But in a lot, I know the Mavericks one does it a lot because I hate the Mavericks. I'm there a lot. And they'll have an article where it's a pregame, but it's just dedicated to betting, how to bet the game. And I don't think Brightside has done that yet. I don't remember it.
Is it over under Luka's likely to score over 29 tonight, so you should bet the over? Is it crap like that?
Yeah, and it's so for a fan site, a lot of times it'd be definitely bet against Dallas tonight with very little remorse because it's and I'm like, what are you guys doing? You're the fans.
Yeah. When that blog is supposed to be almost like a beat writer type thing, and it's not supposed to be a columnist type thing, that's not a great look. I agree with that 100% because I do think I've stuck by that of you really do need to keep the analysis separate from the beat writing recap, separate from the commentary criticism. Those are three genuinely different things that you shouldn't be lumping them all into one similar thing. And gambling, bringing that into over. Also, don't bet single game over under crap. People can get hurt. It's pointless. Don't ever do that.
Right.
And just the idea of going to maybe anyone to say like, here's your best bets for tonight. We said it earlier, but like, I hope that people learn like nobody knows crap about anything. Like some people are better at it than others because they have good analysis on their own, but for the most part, the way you win at gambling, you win 60% of the time. The best gamblers win 60% of the time, and that's the only way to do it. That you can't.
Well, isn't that was a point Cody made? Is like, so really you just need money to make money.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
like you could vote because of the trends of home versus away in the NBA and maybe most sports.
You give me $2,000, I can come out ahead at the end of a season. I just have to bet the same way every single time, and the trend's eventually going to probably make me profit. A good example of that is because I'm a fucking nerd. Is for the last how many years have I done this? I have used the Advanced Stats website for NCAA basketball, gone back to 2002, and tracked the championship likelihood of every NCAA basketball team once we get to March Madness. And I basically can win money every year because I can bet on 4 teams that fit the profile of who's going to win, and I bet only a little bit of amount of money, and I can pretty much win it. I can tell you right now for this season, going to the site, 4 teams that you should bet on. Do I get $1 million now to be on TV? Like, I just dedicated some time.
Text me later, okay?
Yeah, right. I just dedicated some time to figuring it out, and it works almost all the time.
It works at the biggest levels, like Bob Voulgaris. If you've ever heard of him, a pretty famous sports bettor, once turned poker player, once turned Dallas executive, because they realized like this guy has figured out something in the analytics that we haven't, because he's able to win at like a 65% clip. And again, if it's Vegas or whatever, the house is usually contentious to get anything over 50. Yeah. So if you're winning at 65%, that is massive. That's not just like a 15% margin. That's huge. Yeah.
And
so that tools exist if you're willing to put in the time, or you can listen to vapid little one-liners on TV and be like, "Oh, I'll bet the under 2."
How much time do you think Jalen Rose really put into research?
0. It's probably scripted.
Exactly.
Yeah. Look, Dave. God bless. Bless your heart. You're the eternal optimist. I believe you for the most part when you say, well, I would just take it.
It would suck. It would suck in the moment.
Take it as it comes. Majority of people, if something that they love becomes something that they hate, they are less.
A little less laissez-faire.
Yeah. It's a big deal.
It's not your child. It's not your spouse. It's entertainment.
Right. Most people don't have that perspective of I can only base things relative to child.
When Dave is upset when the Suns losing the playoffs this year, I'm going to remind him it's not his child. And it's not his spouse.
No. I'll be upset for a short period of time. There's a difference.
And to what you said earlier, Sean, about and both of you actually saying like you don't know how damaging this is. It's so early in all this because it was legalized at the start of last football season. So we're through 16 months, 18 months of it being legal in Arizona, for example. We're way too early into it. I would not be shocked if you give it a couple more years and the government's like, oh, shit, we really let this get out of hand and everyone can log in and there's no daily cap on how much money you can deposit. I could put in like $5,000. Do I have $5,000 I should be putting in there? No, absolutely not. And that they might start realizing that they need to rein back in FanDuel and DraftKings and MGM and all that crap a little bit. Because the one thing I'm surprised you haven't complained about, and maybe just because the Suns Arena doesn't have it, is the fact that sports books are in the stadium.
They have it.
They do. I have a problem with that.
Yeah.
That is, like, it's already on your phone. Really putting the sports book in there and trying to trick people into going and betting on the game they're about to watch, that would bug the shit out of me because I just want you to go watch the fucking game when you're there. Yeah. I don't want people sitting there live betting on their phones in the middle of the game or going over to the sports book after the first quarter and being like, oh, someone's up by a bunch. I'm going to put a bunch of money down. That really will ruin the environment and vibe of the game if that starts to become really, really popular.
Right.
I think, ticket prices, I think, fix that for the most part. It's too expensive to spend $200 on lower level seats to a basketball game and spend all your time in the sports book. It just doesn't make sense. People are generally trying to get value. Yeah, they might look on their phones, but I don't think the majority of people aren't doing that, at least not yet.
And I'm curious if I don't know what team or what sports book is going to make available, what their profit margins are and those things. I hope it's bad. I hope it fails, and I hope they all take them back out, realizing, well, we gave you the app, and that's really all we needed to do. Why did we set up a physical location? What the fuck was the point?
And, and Dave, you were talking about, why do I care? I'm the person that, when I hear that the NBA numbers are going up because of social media and how good it's been for the league, I like that, and I think in part because, like I said before, I want it to be healthy so that it continues. When I think back to, the NBA versus the not CBA. What was the other one? ABA? ABA.
Oh,
And if you're an ABA fan, and then it died, and you're like, great. So, could you imagine a world where I care about the Suns and, it matters so much, and then they just the league dies? So this thing that I invested so many years and so much passion, it's just it's just over now.
Yeah, I mean, look at this. This is a dumb example, but if you were a big Arizona Rattlers fan because you just loved arena football and they were good, they won multiple championships, that league died.
They still
and
exist.
now it's back. Yeah. But if you were an Arizona Rattlers fan, if you were hardcore for some reason, would you be ride or die with the team again after the league dissolved for several
years? They never
years?
dissolved. They went to the IFL.
Yeah, what do you mean straw man argument though? That wanting
because the NBA is not going to dissolve in any time soon.
I'm not saying dissolve. I'm just saying I like hearing, especially relative to football, when it's football's dropping. There was a time where football was going down relative to what it was. NBA was rising. I was like, yes, good for the league. I like that. And you can shrug your shoulders and do whatever. It matters to me.
But
just
why?
like it does, in the same way that it doesn't matter to you.
But I really truly want to know why something like that matters to you. Who cares what other people like? You like what you like. Great. Why does it matter?
That's kind of all that Sean cares about. It's the same reason he's Dave, you've maybe never gone on the site Rotten Tomatoes in your life, but Sean goes there regularly to see how movies he cares about are performing.
Sean's just going through what every 60-year-old went through when analytic stats became a thing and were really important. And he's just going through back in my day, we didn't gamble on games and we cheered for teams. And he's really upset about it.
Yes.
It's just it's a tough transition for everybody.
Yeah, when my kids are watching 50 games because they're like, oh, I have a fantasy person in every, and I'm like, well, what about your favorite team? What do you mean, Dad? There is no favorite team. There's just players. We just root for players. We never root for the players. We just want them to do good so we can win money.
I am curious, a generation from now, if the fandom of teams themselves does start to drop, if any of this has any repercussion to that, and people do only care about random players. And
that's what I've been saying. I don't know what's going to happen.
The NBA has already been doing that, though.
Couldn't you see a road that this goes down where that does become a thing? Isn't it possible?
No.
What do you mean no? Of course it's possible.
Well, it wouldn't be only because of sports betting. Let's put it that way. It would also be because of the player empowerment era where your favorite players are gone in 4 years or less. It's going to be because of many factors and not just one.
How many new Suns fans do you have because Kevin Durant's on your team now?
More than I'd care to admit.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so far, they've all been super kind, and nobody thinks that they're ride or die or anything. But still, the fact remains that they're going to follow whomever, just like it happened with Chris Paul when he came here. And that's why everybody loves Devin Booker as a Suns fan, because he's ours. Yeah. That's our guy.
And I'll even reserve judgment. If somebody came to the Suns because of Kevin Durant, and then they become a Suns fan, and it lasts, then great. If it's I only came because Kevin Durant, once he leaves or retires, then I'm out. Well, that's less good. But I don't even care about that as much.
It's one of those things that, great, they want to do that. I think you're wrong in doing that. That method of fandom, I think, is dumb. It's absolutely, to me, stupid. The most fun thing about sports is investing all of my emotion in one team and their results and following them ride or die. That's what's fun for me.
Now, here's an exception, Dave. Here's an exception, because we're on the same page, so I think you'll agree, but we're ride or die Suns, but I'm sort of following Brooklyn now because two players that I really care about are now on Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And I want them to succeed. I kind of want them to succeed more than I care about Brooklyn succeeding in a way.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
If they can lead Brooklyn to a title maybe in a year where we're terrible, I would care more about that than the Joe Schmo team.
Sure.
You sound just like me and cheering for the Washington Capitals because they made me money.
Great. I don't know. What sport is that? Baseball?
It's hockey.
That's the one.
Great.
Also, what's worse for the NBA? A bunch of people gambling or a point guard having a gun on a plane? I'm not sure which one's worse.
Well,
now you're making false equivalencies. Now, if I can bet on whether or not John Morant's gun was real or registered to him, now we've reached the true utopia of pain.
Yeah.
One thing.
I'll give you 2-1 odds of that.
Over under on how many games he's suspended for.
Right.
That's
49.5.
That's probably a bet. Somewhere someone can make that bet.
I will bet on that. That's great. That's funny.
You had that's out there, right? Somebody's going to offer that bet.
I don't think it's
not in the main sites.
There are very specific things that are legal. I read a nice big long article about it before the Super Bowl of Arizona. We can or can't bet on the Gatorade color or the length of the national anthem.
Yeah.
There's actually stuff
That's
written
hilarious.
in.
And thankfully, you also cannot wager on how many times Ray Rice is going to hit his wife.
Yeah.
Right.
We haven't gone to that level of depravity yet, so that's nice.
Yeah, do you want how many games a football player is going to be suspended for decapitating a player in the middle of a game?
Well, the good. I will say the positive. The positive that's come from legalizing sports betting is one thing. They don't so far allow you to have a debit account. They don't allow you to have credit running where you have to sit there and be like borrowing like a bookie would, because that stuff was dangerous for a small subset of people. But if you had a bookie, an illegal bookie, who you'd call up and say, hey, put $50 on this and the juice is running, some people got in really deep trouble with that. That doesn't happen anymore. It's the same thing with any sort of drug legalization where, if you're going to go buy it on the streets, it could be very dangerous for you. It's dangerous to use certain drugs, but if they're legal, at least it's less dangerous. And maybe more people use it, but it's less dangerous for those who are affected by it the most, I think, at least.
I'm still going back to this thing. Like, if you not get, like, if Better Call Saul was just like shit in the last season, you'd be like, well... and now,
okay,
and on the opposite, I think you're expecting me to like go like riot on the streets of LA. I'm also not saying that's the reaction. I'm just saying more than passing disappointment. Oh, shucks. More of a reaction. Because I would say if you don't have the reaction, you didn't really like the show that much to begin with.
I completely disagree with you. But that's just how I
agree with you. I don't blame you for thinking that the broadcasts are annoying.
Yeah.
I disagree with you on the whole fandom thing changing and being fair weather and all that. I'm not sure that's going to happen as much as the product itself is going to look like shit, and I don't blame you for that.
No. It comes down to, I'd be in those situations, I'm disappointed. If something changed the way I like it, I'd be disappointed, but I can't control it. That's what it comes down to.
And I'm not saying that you can or cannot. And I'm also not saying like go, bomb the director's house. I'm just saying, like, me being disappointed if the product sucks is a fine reaction.
Yeah.
This is what I'm getting at.
I wouldn't be disappointed. It wouldn't affect my life.
Well,
this has affected Sean's life, okay?
It also would not affect my life. Although I will say, like, little things like when the Suns are in the playoffs and it's getting real dicey, I feel a little bit anxious during that time. It does cross over into my regular life.
That's the fun of sports.
Yeah, I lose a little bit of sleep.
Yeah,
I agree.
It's
sleep if you bet $50 on them and they lost at the
That's absolutely true. I saw a video. I don't know if it was real or not, but somebody, some big play happened in the Super Bowl, and they like threw their can of beer bottle at the TV and started punching the TV.
I've seen many videos.
Those are staged.
Are they always staged?
Nowadays, yes. Originally, no.
Okay.
Nowadays, I would bet 99% are.
I read the cutoff was like 2005. Anything before that probably really broke their TV. After that, they were just doing it for clicks.
Yeah. So they just buy a TV and I can buy
a TV for $250 now and go viral because I punched a hole in it and it's worth it. I don't care.
It's kind of amazing, actually. Like, as everything gets more expensive in the modern economy, TVs are still super cheap.
I actually read, where was that? I want to see if you guys read it too.
The Economist, maybe? There was an article I saw the article.
Yeah, they're talking about, like, TVs are now $100.
Yep.
And yet, like, education, like a degree is $1 million and going. And all, like, the government-regulated shit continues to go up in price, but, like, the
more free market stuff. Yeah, it was an interesting
disruptive
take.
Technology and all that is going down.
It's not as simple as you painted it to be, but still, when you look at it reductively, you're like, well, yeah, that is not exactly the best sign either. Where it's like, yes, one's a technology and one's like a service, but still, the fact that that's spiraling out of control. But you can go buy a TV for $100 if you want that. That's cool, I guess. That's great. I can't buy groceries, but at least I can buy a TV.
So, Sean, on the flip side, you're not inspired by the stories of someone who hits like the 12-leg parlay and they bet $10 and now they have $15,000?
No.
Can I just tell you something? I don't know what fully. I could not explain to you what a parlay. I kind of contextual get some things. I've never had it defined. I've never looked into it myself.
What about a teaser? You know what that is? Round robin.
I know what a round robin is in terms of gambling. Probably not.
No. So it's really easy. A parlay is just a bunch of bets, and if you miss one of them, you lose the whole thing.
So that was a bunch of bets is what I did take. I didn't know if you lose one, you lose it all.
Round robin would give you an out, and then a round robin allows you to win 7 of the 8, and you still win some money. But they're terrible.
You got to bet more money to do this. So but no. So I saw one story where a guy had bet on like all the college football games of a day and hit something where he put like 10, 15 bucks on, and it would have paid out like $1 million or something like that if he hit them all. And halfway through the day, it hit all of them, and the fan site was offering to pay him out like $250,000. So he's like, cash out, cash out, cash out, because he knew he was going to lose. He actually ended up hitting it, and he would have won $1 million, but he ended up cashing out for like $275,000.
Basically,
it's literally
it's a lot of money, Howie.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, it's a lot of money.
And so
I came here with nothing.
It's never going to happen in your lifetime. It's not like I'm expecting, like, man, just waiting for my day when I'm going to hit all of them. Like, it's, I don't know. But it's a fun story, at least, because for that little bit of time, it was fun to follow that. Like, whoa, this guy's there.
You can do it with minimal investment. Then you can bet $1 and hope that this 1,000 to 1 comes home.
That's the same as buying a lotto ticket. I mean, it's the
pretty much
equivalent to it.
The problem though is like even the happy stories really are not happy for I think 99% of the time because my ex-girlfriend, her mom won I think $5,000 at a casino. And she bought a new camera, and I was like, oh, my God, what a big deal. And my ex-girlfriend was like, yeah, not really, though, because she's probably lost $50,000 or more in her time gambling. All these people gambling, unless they win, like, $1 million, like a huge payday, for the most part, like, there's no happy story because they've lost so much more than they've ever earned. You're probably an exception, Cody.
What a negative view of that.
I mean,
a depressing view.
That's what it is. It's predatory.
People pay for gambling the same way as they pay for entertainment or going to the movies.
That is the one small exception is if you can control it and you're still losing money, but it's like, well, instead of going to go see a movie, I enjoy like going and sitting at the slot for 2 hours.
Yes.
Fine. But I think even that's kind of small.
I mean, if I ever go to Vegas, I bring out cash and play craps or blackjack or whatever. And I go with okay, I've got this money. I'm going to lose this money tonight.
Yeah. I've cashed out my kids' college fund. When I lose this college fund, I'm out.
I'm going to bet $10,000 on craps and lose it in an hour.
But I bring $400 or whatever, like whatever it is. I'm like, all right,
but your life is in control. So like your stories, in a weird way, they don't mean that much to me because like you have your head on your shoulders. I don't
think most people have Dave's impulse control.
I think your problem is the people who don't have the impulse control. If it wasn't sports gambling, it is going to be something else.
That's probably true, but again,
unfortunately,
the problem is some of those other vices don't have things blaring at you to do them in the middle of them themselves.
Yeah.
You have to go to a casino if you want to lose your money that way. You can't just, I guess there are now some sites where you can like play slots for money on your phone in a couple of states and shit. But like in general, you can't just do that on a whim. You can do this on a whim unlike almost anything else. And that's the issue I keep coming back to.
It is the first foray into really having an unfortunate vice. In 3 taps, I can put $100 down on something. That's pretty dangerous. You're right.
And again, like maybe it's not as dangerous as the bookie angle that Dave mentioned. I think he's right to an extent, but in a way, it's also more dangerous because there is nothing stopping you.
But there was no bookie
There's no fear of somebody breaking your kneecaps, except maybe your wife when she finds out. You just keep doing it because it's just a few little taps on my finger, and there's $50 on this game, 20 on this one, 100 on that one, and shit, I lost $5,000 in a month.
Yeah, maybe every gambler is not like Adam Sandler's character from that one movie, but
Happy Gilmore.
Yes. Wait, what was it?
Billy Madison.
Uncut Gems.
Uncut Gems. It was like something, and I could not think. Uncut Gems, yeah. But it's bad enough still. We said it was gonna be a short show talking about sports betting. We have filled the entire time.
There's no such thing as a short show anymore.
No.
They don't unless I talked by myself and I still did a half an hour, but I was like, all right, it's a half hour.
Especially when Dave is being impossible. The show becomes an hour.
Oh, I see. I have an opinion. I'm impossible.
No.
Wonderful.
Yeah, the opinion is impossible.
No, it's not.
You're a paragon. So either it's impossible or you're impossible to relate to. You're inhuman in this respect. And who can attain such goals? Nobody. You're a paragon.
Josh says short shows are impossible. He's right. That's the impossibility here.
That is true.
Especially with 4 people. Everybody, in an hour, 4 people have 15 minutes apiece to talk.
Josh just said the only thing I've agreed with all day.
He agrees with him more than Dave, so that's a good start. The last thing I'll say, by the way, it's still early enough that I'm not too concerned, but to me, it's about following the money. So if these companies can pour all this money into dumbass free bets that start you off, and or this ridiculous amount of advertising, To me, the question you have to ask is, how are they making it back? And the answer is on the backs of all the people that are dumb and wager and lose money on this, just like in a casino where, again, the house always wins. To me, the fact that we've made it this far and we haven't hit the bubble yet is concerning because of how many of all those free offers were put out there, and ththey've still made money on them, presumably. Because it's not like we had an NFT-esque bubble where it was like, oh, NFTs are so hot, and then like 27 days later, it was like, oh, fuck, this isn't real at all.
I will say the offers aren't even remotely the same as they used to
No,
be.
they're getting better, so it's clear that stuff was,
They're not worth it. They're not giving you the free money. It is, oh, your $10 bet. You'll bet up to $1,000 on this one bet, and we'll give you it all back in site credit.
Yeah.
Most people shouldn't be stupid enough to think that that's actually the equivalent deal to the, if this team scores 1 point in the game, and you can bet $1 at 100 to 1 odds. That's a free $100. That was what they were doing.
Okay, but if I could quibble with just 5 words of that sentence real quick. The problem with that is the saying most people aren't stupid enough.
Yes, I know.
Because I think we've proven that in this country, plenty of people are absolutely stupid enough.
And to further your point, unfortunately, is all the people who are really high rollers, they're not using FanDuel. And
no.
DraftKings.
They've got their own private channels and movers and
that
shakers
is
for
not
that.
where
They're
that
not.
money's going to. All those companies are making money off of the idiots, which are the same idiots that use those same 2 apps to bet on daily fantasy. And then guess what? They found out that those 2 companies were cheating them and betting against how many players they were putting in their lineups. And all the employees of those 2 companies were winning daily fantasy jackpots over and over again because they could see the inside numbers. So,
see, and then with Dave, it's like, if we kidnapped your whole family, would you like try to get vengeance? And he'd be like, no, like, it is what it is. Namaste.
Did you just not listen to me when I said it's not my wife or my kids? Like, did you hear that?
Oh, that's actually a good point.
Right, but if they took Bo, then
took my dog.
Bye, Bo.
If they killed your dog,
which is what happens in John Wick.
He's so annoying.
Death is a natural part of life.
It was his time. Man. It was his time.
Yeah, great. I'm so glad I have opinions every once in a while for Sean.
It's the way the writers wanted it to be.
Yeah, the script. It's the script.
You're proving my point, Sean, that I should be less emotional about things, because if I'm emotional and have an opinion, you shit on it. So thank you.
No, it's not emotional. You're anti-emotional. I would love some emotion.
I had a thought. I had a way of thinking and an opinion, and you hated it.
You already know that when you don't see the world in the way that Sean does, he doesn't like it.
So this is not fair. This is a martyrdom right now that's happening.
And I'm
because you were the guy. Dude, forget it. We just rehash it. People know where we stand. We'll resume next week.
As I say, it's not like it's just contained in this episode. There's 566 episodes of this for the most part.
Yeah, I'm being made out to be the villain here.
I'm not making you.
I am the victim, actually, not Dave.
Here we go. This has happened in at least 25 of these episodes too. So I mean,
25, like this year, 25.
Yeah, this year.
All time, I think it's far more than that.
You can't call yourself a martyr and actually be thought of as a martyr. The whole point
I don't
of
think
martyr.
That's true.
No, I think it's great because the formula is basically push button, push your button, push your button, push your button. Why are you mad at me?
Yeah, I'm the victim.
What the fuck?
Yeah, Cody knows I'm the martyr.
And if you were in a relationship, we would find this to be abusive. But you're just friends, so I guess it's fine. If you have a gambling addiction, please call the number at the bottom of the screen. That's the end of this episode. In between shows, you can find us at our website, objectionnetwork.com or youtube.com/objectionnetwork. Pokemon Quetzal's Nuzlocke run will be back for its finale starting next week, and it's only going to be a few more episodes. We have very little left, so stay tuned for that. It'll be back now that I'm back in town. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.